Hello and welcome to episode, I believe, 7, 8 of What Gets Captured on Film. My name is Dylan Paulson. I am your host. And if you're new here, this is a show all about movie news and what has been going on within the past week in terms of our favorite movies. So, there's a podcast that goes live every Wednesday at 9 a.m. on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and then Wednesday at noon, the show will go live on YouTube, although there is no video component, audio only here for the time being. TBD on that. We'll just throw it out there, put it on the wall, maybe one day. But anyway, we'll talk about all things movie news, talk about what I've been watching over the past week, and then get into some of the biggest news stories. Wrap up of some smaller items, and then what is new in theaters this upcoming week. And and that'll be the show. Kind of a big show, a lot to talk about, a lot of trailers we definitely need to talk about. So let's get into it. This episode is covering the news of what happens from November 17th to November 23rd. So let's get into some smaller items that I just wanted to bring up off the top. So first and foremost, from last week's show, Ghostbusters Afterlife, which we talked about at the end, it was coming out in theaters. It premiered last Thursday night or last Friday. $44 million box office opening weekend. That's domestic only in the U.S. It's a great opening weekend for pre-pandemic, during pandemic, post-pandemic. $44 million is nothing to shy at, especially for a lower end budget type movie like Ghostbusters Afterlife. This isn't your big Marvel movie, but this is definitely a licensed franchise movie, higher budget, but not huge. $44 million is great. And I'm sure that the execs over there at Columbia Pictures, Sony Pictures are going to be definitely looking into expanding the franchise even more. So good for them. Good for Ghostbusters. I'm happy to see that franchise return. To be honest, a little strange that it's not in New York, but if the movie has heart, then it can definitely succeed regardless. So next news item that I wanted to bring up, and I only bring this up because I brought up the previous portion of the story a few weeks ago. And here's like a little update, is that Deadline reports that Black Panther Wakanda Forever has resumed production, and Letitia Wright is continuing to heal from her onset injuries. So this story, Letitia Wright was injured during an onset stunt, something along those lines, and she was taking a back seat from being a part of production. And then they continued to do production around her absence, and then production was halted, and because they couldn't do anything else without her in the movie. She's probably number one on the call sheet. So now she is recovering from her injury, whatever that was. It seems like it was horrible. I think it happened in June. So it's a pretty big injury. She must have broken something, or it must be horrible, whatever she had gone through. But filming has resumed. And I think I only brought it up last time to say that the movie probably didn't have a good chance of being all that good if the cast is mostly broken up, especially during scenes. If you only film half a scene and then, 6 months later you'll film the other half of the scene, there's just a lot of nuance that gets lost between the actors. So hopefully they can amend that with Letitia Wright getting back on set. Next thing is Documentary Plus is an emerging streaming service that is completely free, and it aims to give documentaries a wider audience. I encountered this during my news research this week. It's called Documentary Plus. You can Google it, you'll find it. Some pretty interesting stuff on there. I was just looking around. There's one on Richard Linklater, documentary on him, featuring a few interviews from Ethan Hawke, Matthew McConaughey. That was something that was interesting. a few things were popped up that piqued my interest. But it's completely free, no subscription required. I thought that was very nice to see in the age of overwhelming subscription fees, that Documentary Plus is completely free. I thought it was pretty cool. Okay, now let's get into a few things that we can definitely talk about a little more. So, yeah, this one came out yesterday or today. Ridley Scott was on Marc Maron's WTF podcast, and he was talking about why The Last Duel bombed. And the Hollywood Reporter initially reported on this from Marc Maron's WTF podcast, but I actually went in to listen to the podcast just to make sure that no one was taking Ridley Scott's words out of context or anything like that, that he really was saying what he meant, because the headline definitely attracted my eyes. But yeah, if you want to go listen to this, this conversation happens around 28 minutes into the WTF podcast. And here's a quote from it. So Ridley Scott saying this, quote, "I think what it boils down to, what we've got today, are the audiences who were brought up on these fucking cell phones. The millennial do not ever want to be taught anything unless you're told it on a cell phone, ellipsis." He goes on to say about the green lighting of the movie. Quote, "That's what you call, let me start that over. Quote, "That's the call you make. That's the call Fox made. We all thought it was a terrific script, and we made it. You can't win all the time. I've never had one regret on any movie I've ever made. Nothing. I've learned very early on to be your own critic. The only thing you should really have an opinion on is what you just did. Walk away, make sure you're happy, and don't look back. That's me." End quote. So, to be honest, I think this whole headline of Ridley Scott blaming that The Last Duel bombed because of millennials being too addicted to their cell phones or whatever the hell people think he was talking about is total nonsense, and it's total bullshit. And I think it's total, gotcha debauchery journalism. There was an hour and a half podcast and I listened to a lot of it. I probably listened to like 40 minutes of it. And just before I move on, the WTF podcast, it sounds bad now. I don't know what happened to Marc Maron. I used to listen to that show back in the day, like years ago, and it's just like advertisements all over the place. The guest didn't come on until, 15 minutes into the show. It was so weird, very odd. Anyways, and Ridley Scott was very well spoken. He was very kind and very, complimentary of the host and his fans and the people that go to see the movies. So when he was saying this thing about millennials only wanting to learn from their phones, and that's the reason why The Last Duel bombed, I think it was just something he says offhand, because the entire rest of the show, he never brings it up again. It's completely, forgotten. No one talks about it. Marc Maron didn't even bring it up. And to be honest, I think that even if he was like, "Oh, I blame it on millennials, I blame it on, even if that is what he means, then the assertion is false, right? Because there are plenty of movies that are doing very well. And millennials, which is my generation, unfortunately, because we get such a bad rep, millennials were the target market for this movie. And I saw hundreds of advertisements for it. They were all over the place. I couldn't get this movie off of my phone. It was everywhere. And I really did want to see it. Why didn't I go see it? Can't tell you. But the blaming the failure of a movie, the box office failure of a movie on your target market means that the movie wasn't marketed right, or it wasn't made right, or it shouldn't have been made. So I don't understand why this is all under the assertion that the assumption that if Ridley Scott's assertion is true, if he really did mean to blame the Because to be honest, to me, from my perspective, it didn't seem like he really meant to say that. I mean, to me, it feels like he meant to say, he meant it as just like an offhand thing. And then he immediately started talking about something else that like, I think the only reason he brought this up was to say that like, no, I, as Ridley Scott, don't really care about the box office, whatever. The box office numbers, the reviews, I don't care. And then he told the story about how Blade Runner got this horrible review, this 4-page insulting review, and it's up on his wall, and now he's his own critic, and he learned that a very long time ago. That's why he was telling that story in the second half of that quote that I read. So, I really don't think that he's actually in his head, in his heart of heart, putting the blame on millennials. I don't think so. I think this is something he just said offhand on a podcast that he was otherwise completely delightful speaking on, and people are just blowing this way out of proportion, to be honest. But you can have your own opinion. Even if he did say this, if he totally did mean it, to be honest, I don't care. I'm still probably gonna see it eventually. I want to watch it, and I really want to watch House of Gucci. So, whatever. If this type of quote really bothers you about Ridley Scott, then don't go see any of his movies. And if you haven't been seeing any of his movies, then you're not the target market. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Yeah. Long story short, I think people are blowing that out of proportion. Go listen to the podcast. Don't read an article about a podcast. If you really care, if it's really bothering you, go listen to the podcast like I did. I even gave you the timestamp. It's right around the 28-minute mark that they have this conversation. The WTF podcast. It's out now. It's free. I listened to it. If this is really bothering you, don't go post online about it. Don't go to Twitter and hate up Ridley Scott. Go listen to the podcast. Listen to see what he really has to say, because it's an enlightening conversation. Okay, moving on. Next thing. The Hollywood Reporter did a dramatic actresses roundtable with Jessica Chastain, Jennifer Hudson, Kirsten Dunst, Emilia Jones, Kristen Stewart, and Tessa Thompson, and they spoke about the underwhelming box office results and how they measure success. So this is kind of going into the same thing that Ridley Scott was just talking about. I have two quotes here, one from Chastain, one from Stewart. But the Hollywood Reporter used to do these in person. I don't know if this one was in person or what. I think it probably was, but they used to do these with directors and writers and actors and actresses and producers. It was just like these round tables they would have, and they would have a moderator just steer this conversation around each of the projects that they did and make sure that everyone had an equal chance to talk, and you would get some really interesting conversations around them. And I liked the videos that the Hollywood Reporter used to put out. They were like these hour-long roundtables, and you would just watch them and just listen to A-list stars talk about the projects that they're in. And it always comes out right around award season. So it's cool to see that they're doing them again. I would love to have seen this whole thing in a video, but I have two quotes here just from the written article that was up on the Hollywood Reporter. And I have a quote here from Jessica Chastain and a quote from Kristen Stewart. I'll just read them both. So this is Chastain, quote, "I don't think we can really look at each product and say, okay, add up all these factors and this equals a success. And I'd like to offer up that in this industry, if that's what you're focused on, you're going to have a lot of difficulty. You have to live and work for the experience of working. It's got to be something that fulfills you and offers you something and helps you grow as a human being. If you're like, I need to check this box and this box and this box, all you're going to be is unhappy," end quote. And this is from Kristen Stewart, quote, "Yeah, I mean, when is your experience and how people consumed it completely congruent? Like, it's pretty rare. It's thrilling when it is. It's really nice when you do a movie and you're like, I think that's a good movie and I had a good time making it and people seem to like it, but that is a miracle," end quote. So what they're talking about here, what Kristen Stewart's talking about here, sorry, that quote was a little out of context, but she was just talking about the difference between making a movie and having it do well versus making a movie and having it not do well. Whether that be, critically or financially, fiduciarily, whatever you want to say. So but she's saying that, no experience, regardless of whatever project you work on, is completely congruent. So you can never exactly compare one thing to the other. And I think that was some pretty interesting insight. And I also like that, she brings up this notion that, and I've heard this quite a few times. If you watch a lot of celebrity things, you'll hear this a lot, that it really is a miracle to have someone work on a project that they enjoy and they enjoyed making it, and then an audience picks it up. That is a miracle. And it really is. I mean, like, even think about it, in the last few weeks, the slew of movies that have come out, and even The Last Duel, for instance, that people haven't really been attached to it, but Ridley Scott loved making it. And even in that podcast, even in the WTF podcast, they talk about other movies that that Ridley Scott had made that he loves. I can't really think of them off the top of my head. The only one that I can think of is American Gangster, but everyone loves that movie. That's a pretty well-regarded, well-known movie. But like The Duelists, maybe. Ridley Scott said he loved The Duelists, but it's not that some fan favorite. It might have some sort of small cult following, but it is a miracle to work on a project and come out the other side and have an audience enjoy it. And I thought that was pretty interesting insight. And I also find that the Jessica Chastain quote that I read previous to that very interesting, just to say that the people that are working on these things aren't oftentimes concerned with hold on, I'm looking over the quote again. Aren't exactly concerned with what makes a success. If they're, when you're at these actresses levels where you're getting paid a pretty penny for your work, that it might not necessarily matter as long as you come out the other side and you enjoy it, or whatever your barometer is for success. That there doesn't have to be like Jessica Chastain says, a checkbox and a checkbox and a checkbox, because then you're just going to be unhappy that, maybe the Rotten Tomatoes is X or whatever. And that was another thing that they talked about in this roundtable, that none of them look at Rotten Tomatoes. They don't care. Maybe the studio cares. Maybe the director might care. To be honest, I doubt it. But the actors and actresses definitely do not care. All they care about is, how did they feel about making the movie? How did they feel about the performance? Because at the end of the day, you can only control yourself and your own performance in that position. So I thought that was interesting. Just food for thought, that one. Nothing to really say. Just food for thought. Okay, so that was all of the smaller news stories I wanted to talk about. So before we get into the big news stories, like a lot of things to talk about, some trailers to watch, I wanted to talk about what I watched this week. And the big movie that came out on Netflix this week was Tick, Tick, Boom. And it directed by Lin Manuel Miranda, starring Andrew Garfield. I'm looking it up right now to see who it was written by, but it's adapted from the Jonathon Larson written, and Jonathon Larson wrote the music and the play and the book, they call it, the music and the book for the original Broadway show called Tick, Tick, Boom. And it's Stephen Levinson wrote the screenplay for this movie. And it was out on Netflix. It came out on, Thursday or Friday, whatever, last week. And it is a very, very, I'll read the synopsis. On the cusp of his 30th birthday, a promising young theater composer navigates love, friendship, and the pressures of life as an artist in New York City. So Tick, Tick, Boom, the musical, is really, a Broadway musical, the original Broadway musical, written by Jonathon Larson. It's about him. It's about himself. And it's about him as he struggles to come to professionalism as a composer in his late 20s, early 30s in New York. It's an interesting story because it's about him. He wrote it about himself. And Jonathon Larson, if you don't know, is the guy that he created the musical Rent, which I knew going into this. So this movie is like a total, 30,000 feet, total mixed bag for me. And I'll tell you why. That the music, in the back of my head, I knew that Jonathon Larson wrote the music for this, and that Jonathon Larson wrote the music for Rent. And I don't love the music for Rent. Not to say that no one can like the music for Rent. But the last time I saw it, I was, 14 or 15. I could think totally differently about it now. That was years and years ago, the last time I saw Rent. But I just didn't like it. It just wasn't what I wanted from a Broadway musical. And I think that was kind of the point. I think that's why so many people did wind up gravitating toward it, because it was so new and different and unique. And watching this movie, Tick, Tick, Boom, did kind of give me a little bit of an appreciation of the nuance that was there. So that was an interesting perspective I didn't think that I would garner. But so the music sounds like Rent. Not necessarily, not like it's the same melodies and it's the same lyrics and whatever, but it has this like rock opera type attitude that the same music from Rent has. It has that through line, and it's totally uniquely, originally Jonathon Larson. And I knew it from the first song. I was like, oh shit, this sounds exactly like Rent. I'm gonna hate this. And I didn't hate it. I didn't love the music. It's not, this isn't my Broadway musical. This isn't for me. My Broadway musicals are Little Shop of Horrors and Has Succeed in Business Without Really Trying. This is a very, very modern rock opera musical. This is not classic Broadway. So know that going in. I kind of forgot about it. In the back of my head, I knew, but as soon as the first song started, I was like, oh shit, I'm going to hate this. And I didn't wind up hating it. But so that's the music. Music, I don't love. The music was very unique. I'll say that. Very unique. And a lot of people are going to wind up loving the music, or already do love the music if they've heard the musical before, but not for me. Not my type of Broadway musical, sadly. Other than that, I think Andrew Garfield absolutely killed it. I think he did an absolutely phenomenal job as Jonathon Larson. He was great. I think he did a great job singing. It sounded like it was him singing everything. I think it was. He kills it. Very genuine acting. Very, very nuanced performance. I was watching Andrew Garfield, but he totally transformed into a different character. It's not like he was playing some sort of, animated version of himself. He is acting. He is really, really acting. And he has grown into a very competent actor. And just in the time that I've been paying attention to him in the past, 10 years maybe, that he has really grown into his own, and he's doing a great job here. He's killing it. Everyone does a great job. I don't think there's any one actor that really stands out as doing a mediocre job. The only person that I could see is Bradley Whitford. Kind of has an extended cameo. He's in a few scenes, and he's totally passable. It seems like he just showed up and got his check and left. Not to say, you did a fine job. He just didn't have to put forth any real effort into acting. He just kind of showed up and scratched his chin and said a line or two and then left. And so, he was fine. But Alexandra Shipp plays Andrew Garfield's love interest. She did a great job. Robin De Jesus plays Andrew Garfield's best friend. He did a phenomenal job. He came out of nowhere and just killed it. And Vanessa Hudgens is also in the movie. Not really too much to say about her. She is just like a background character, but with a few lines, and she's in a few scenes, and she sings. She does a good job. She has a beautiful voice. Not much to say about her. But, so, acting great. Everyone did a great job. There's no weak link in the film. Even Bradley Whitford, who, again, this was like the same thing that I was talking about with Gal Gadot in Red Notice, was that anyone probably could have played that part. And I wouldn't have missed Bradley Whitford, which is a shame because I really like Bradley Whitford. But, okay, beside the point, let's talk about the story a little bit. That the story, I know that Stephen Levinson didn't write the movie. He wrote the screenplay, but it's based on Jonathon Larson's book. So I've never seen Tick, Tick, Boom, the musical, so I don't know the difference there. I don't know the difference. And then Lin Manuel Miranda directed this. So this is definitely, while there is a lot of, I'm sure, I don't know, I've never seen the musical, but I'm sure there's a lot of creativity from that has been garnered just from Levinson and Miranda that are in this movie and not in the musical. I don't know where the line is. So as I talk about this movie, just know that, take this with a grain of salt, that since I haven't seen the musical, I don't know what is original material in this movie and what is taken directly from the stage production, right? So I just don't know. So, that being said, I didn't think that the writing was bad. It was just not very well thought out. And I thought that it could have been way more creative than it was. So the whole time, Jonathon Larson's character is narrating the story to an audience on stage as you see it play out. So it's kind of like you're seeing Jonathon Larson. So there are two scenes and they get played interchangeably, like intermittently. And one is Jonathon Larson talking to an audience about the scene, and the other is the scene being played out with Jonathon Larson and whoever else is in the scene, like his girlfriend or his roommate or whatever. And I think that it would have been stronger. I think about why, and the scenes of Jonathon Larson talking about the scenes. This is very confusing to talk about, but when Jonathon Larson is on stage and he's talking to the audience and there's like audience feedback, you like hear the audience laugh at the things that he's talking about. Like, this is a movie, right? This isn't a show. This is a movie. And I think that that's where some of the creativity could have really come in from the writing, is that what if they did like a Ferris Bueller type, totally break the fourth wall type thing, where instead of, and they even kind of do this sometimes, where instead of Jonathon Larson's on stage talking to an audience, he just totally breaks character in the middle of the scene and just looks at the camera and talks to the camera. And then like also on stage with Jonathon Larson as he's telling his story is like a piano and musicians and backup singers, and like have them come out of, if Jonathon Larson's in a diner talking to his girlfriend, have him break character, have him talk to the camera, and then have people come out of the woodwork of this diner playing a guitar, singing background, having background dancers. Make it a big performance. Because the thing about Tick, Tick, Boom, the musical, is that it was never big. There was only like 4 parts to the show. And so the show is always small. So what they could never do with that show is have this big production. And a few times there are big productions, like in the diner song. I forget what it's called, but there's like a song about the diner. It's like on Sunday Brunch or something like that. And they like pan outside and they have like dancers dancing down, whatever street it is, like 8th Avenue or whatever in Manhattan. And it would have been so cool if it was bigger, but it wasn't. It was small. It felt very contained, and maybe that was an outcome of filming this partially during COVID. It was broken up. I don't know where exactly the line was, how much was during COVID, how much wasn't, but some of this movie was filmed during COVID, and it suffered from that that breakup in production, which is a shame. But regardless of that, I think that how they even though there was a lack of creativity, I think that they did a pretty good job. It's not like the only reason I'm bringing this up is to say that I know that there could have been more done, but seeing the final product, it's good, but there definitely could have been more done. And let's see, what else? I just had a train of thought that I wanted to go on. Oh, okay. So this is also a thing about the writing that I didn't like, and this is definitely not on Levinson. This is definitely on Larson's original book, and I almost feel bad saying this, but I just didn't care about the main character. I didn't care about Jonathon Larson. I can kind of empathize with him because I was a writer myself, and I remember what it's like to finish your first project, and you want the world for it, and you just, take some time to look at it, and you're like, you know what? This isn't that good. And, I know that feeling. I empathize with that. But at that same time, I wasn't behind on my rent. I wasn't treating my roommate like shit. I wasn't, not focused on, my significant other like Larson does. And the whole time I was watching the movie, I just felt so bad for the people around him that I almost didn't care about him. And I don't really know how to feel about it. I think that I ultimately felt way more bad for his roommate and his girlfriend than I felt for the main character, Jonathon Larson. And I think that's just a product of some poor writing, which is probably on Larson's front, as a writer, not a person. But also, beside that, this was almost definitely on Stephen Levinson, the screenwriters, on his shoulders. Is that, when further into the movie, when the stories about the plot lines of the girlfriend and the roommate kind of come to a head dramatically, it's kind of like, oh wow, these characters kind of came out of nowhere because there was so much focus on Larson and creating his musical and how he has what's it called, writer's block and whatever, that these characters that I know that I know I should care about, I kind of don't care about because they just didn't get enough screen time. There just wasn't enough emotion there. I didn't get to see. In order to feel bad in Act 2, we have to see the normal parts of Act 1. We need to see that Larson loves his roommate, that Larson loves his girlfriend. And I think we maybe saw like 2 or 3 minutes of it. One song isn't going to do it. We got to see 2 songs. We got to see them try and fail together. I need to see them love each other before I see their relationships come to a head. And that's what I think. That I definitely think is on Stephen Levinson. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I don't know where the line is between Levinson and Larson because, the screenwriter and the original writer, because I didn't see the original work. But coming out in this movie, there were, to be honest, it sounds like I didn't care about any of the characters. But okay, so, all that being said, all that negative stuff is that coming out of the movie, I wound up really enjoying it. And here's why. And I think that this happens with a lot of works that I'll wind up seeing, is that you can pick out individual pieces of a work and say, oh, this writing wasn't that good, or that scene wasn't done that well, or, whatever. That shot wasn't that creative. They could have done that with more emotion, whatever. But at the end of the movie, you walk away with some sort of emotional feeling washed over you. And to be honest, isn't that the point, right, of the movie? This is why I like movies, right? Tick, Tick, Boom is a perfect example of why I like movies. That you could go into a movie, I knew pretty much nothing about it. 2 hours later, I was emotionally devastated, right? I had some sort of emotional connection to a character that I didn't even really care for. and I was emotionally exhausted the rest of the night. I tried to watch Seinfeld and I couldn't because I was just so downtrodden with the movie. And ultimately, isn't that the point? If I have some sort of emotional connection to a character at the end of a 2-hour movie, isn't that the point? Right? So ultimately, I think that this movie suffers a little bit from some of the things that it could have done better, but I walked away really enjoying myself because of the emotional connection that I formed, even though I claim that I didn't care, right? But it's just an emotional movie, and I think that it did its job. So whatever bad is with the movie, it isn't bad enough to make me not fully care about the whole story. So I'm conflicted on how to actually feel about it. I think it's great, to be honest. At the end of the day, I think it's great. It's a really great movie. I think it could have done a bunch of stuff way better. But, why do we watch movies? Or why do I watch movies anyway? And the answer is to either escapism or to feel some sort of emotional connection at the end. And I definitely felt that. So that movie, that's a success in my book. So that's all I can really say about it. And it's on Netflix right now. So if you haven't seen it, then you definitely should. And you should know going into it that it sounds like Rent, if you enjoy Rent. So there you go. All right. What else have I been watching this week? Seinfeld, still watching it. I don't think I'm going to bring up Seinfeld in the show anymore. Seinfeld is just comfort food for me, and I just like watching it. And that's pretty much all I can say about that. But I did watch and finish Ted Lasso season 2, and I'm going to look up the IMDb episodes just so I can get a little more comfortable talking about the certain plot points in the show. And ultimately, I thought that this season was miles weaker than season 1. And I'm not really sure where to start. The first episode I thought was written incredibly poorly. It was lazy. It felt like a student film. And it didn't feel like Ted Lasso. It felt boring. It felt lazy. The writing was poor. I don't know what else to say other than that. Not Jamie Tart. Who's the other guy? He's like a producer and he's got a beard. To be honest, he kind of looks like me. What's his name? His name's Brett Goldstein, I think, in real life. Yeah, his name is Brett Goldstein in real life. His character's name is Roy Kent. And this guy I thought was a really interesting character with such an interesting story arc in season 1. And he's kind of limited in this season to just, I don't know. It felt like they were struggling with how to handle his character. It felt like he had a lot of characters suffer from this, is that it seems like they have a lot of shine in one direction, and then in another direction, they just completely, like, after 2 episodes of having like some sort of main A plot, they just kind of fade into the background for the next like 5 episodes. And it's really inconsistent. So Roy Kent, I don't know why Brett Goldstein was talking like this, but he just like talked with like this gravel in his voice, and it was so deep, and for the whole show. And it was like, bro, I can't even understand you. I don't even know what you're saying. And for the guy that just won, Emmy Award winning actor, supporting actor or whatever, I was like, really? Like, is this your choice the whole season? And no one's going to correct him on this? All the people that come in and out of the show, all the talent that touches this show, and no one's going to correct him on this horrible decision to speak like that? Just not a smart move by any means. Yeah. Jason Sudeikis does a great job the whole way through. It's a shame he's not a writer on the show. I think he might be, but I don't know. There was an episode that focused a lot on Coach Beard. I thought it was horrible. Thought it was bad. Keely is a really interesting character. I think she brings a lot of levity to this show. But ultimately her character doesn't do a whole lot other than just like play in pieces with other characters and their storylines. Jamie Tart is totally reduced to a side character in this season, and it's such a shame. They could have done so much more with him. Yeah, I don't know. I ultimately was just super disappointed with the show. And, yeah. I don't want to overly harp on it, but for having such a strong season 1, really, really poor season 2. And I think that season 1 was so good because it was easier to write. It's easier to write conflict when the main character, the boss, the older woman, the blonde woman, is not on the side of Ted Lasso. And her coming to enjoy him by the end of season 1 and then having the conflict between him and Ted Lasso and like who is the nicer person, how do we get each other on the same side, that conflict is so enjoyable to watch that without having that, and season 2 just starts and everyone's just like happy and on the same page, it's so weak. It's really hard to write yourself into conflict from that. And I think they really pulled with Nate's character, the younger guy who Nate the Great. He's like the assistant coach in the season. I think it just totally is pulled out of left field, and I don't think any of his actions are warranted. I don't know why his character's thinking the way he does. I don't empathize with him at all. I just don't even understand where his actions are coming from. It was poor writing ultimately from this whole thing, which is such a shame because there are moments of greatness. I found myself laughing out loud a few times throughout the whole run of the season, but that was nothing compared to laughing out loud in almost every episode of the first season. So I don't know how to feel about the show. I don't know how to feel about season 3. I don't know how to feel about the show winning a bunch of awards in season 1 when it clearly feels like the show doesn't deserve it in season 2. It feels so weak. But I guess we'll just have to see what happens there. I don't even know when season 3 comes out, I don't even know if I'm going to watch it. I don't know. I don't know. All right, whatever. Next things. Ozark. I'm rewatching Ozark. Ozark season 4 is coming in, what's the month called? January. And they just released kind of a teaser on Twitter this week. I was going to put it in the news, but I don't like to report on TV shows. So I wound up not doing it, but I started watching Ozark again. Season 1's great. I love Jason Bateman. Great writing. I love where the story goes. I love pieces of season 2 and 3 that I remember, and I like seeing the bits of the story that lays the groundwork for the rest of the show. It's really interesting and a great pilot. Excellently written pilot. A little story about Ozark is that the guy that the younger guy, his name's Bruce Liddell in the pilot, is Jason Bateman's financial partner, his partnership guy. My screenwriting professor at Drexel University, where I did my undergrad, Bruce Liddell, the actor that played Bruce Liddell, is a good friend of the screenwriting professor that I had for a few years. So there you go. I'm only a few few notes away, a few links away from that guy who was in Ozark. So that's pretty cool. And I look up to Jason Bateman a lot as an actor and as now a director. So I'm like halfway through season 1. I'll update more as I get through it. I love the show. I really do. I will say, if I have to critique something that I've noticed so far in my recent rewatch, it's that some of the jumps in logic can be pretty tough to swallow. Like just now, they robbed a strip club. Marty Bird and Ruth Langmore robbed a strip club, and it's in season 1. It's not really a big spoiler, but some of the jumps in logic in that episode I was like, huh? But it's ultimately not such a huge deal because the show it's such a small little thing and it doesn't really matter in terms of the whole plot point of the whole show, because the show tries to do so many creative things and so many new interesting ideas that not all of them can hit, which is a shame, but it's a great show otherwise. I'm really looking forward to watching the rest of it. Okay, so that's everything I've been watching. Let's get into the biggest news stories this week. We have a few trailers to watch, but first and foremost, we have number 1. Jonah Hill is set to play the vocalist of Grateful Dead, Jerry Garcia, in a Martin Scorsese-directed picture from Apple TV+, according to a press release. The upcoming film will make use of Apple's license of Grateful Dead's music, and the script is to be written by Scott Alexander and Larry Karaszewski, who are behind the critically lauded script of Dolomite Is My Name. Not much more is known about the film other than that, but we will eagerly update the audience as information becomes clearer. Jonah Hill plays a supporting role in the upcoming Adam McKay-directed comedy Don't Look Up for Netflix coming next month. Scorsese is currently in post-production of the highly anticipated adaptation of the novel Killers of the Flower Moon, starring DiCaprio and De Niro, due out October 22nd, 2022. Scorsese has been making critically and commercially successful films since 1972's Boxcar Bertha and 1973's Mean Streets, becoming one of the best directors of all time. His other notable films include Taxi Driver, New York, New York, Raging Bull, King of Comedy, Goodfellas, The Last Temptation of Christ, Cape Fear, Casino, Gangs of New York, The Aviator, The Departed, Shutter Island, The Wolf of Wall Street, and The Irishman. When you put them all together like that, and we talk about earlier how, certain artists will say it's a miracle if one of their pieces of work find an audience that and becomes critically appraised, critically lauded. You look at a body of work like Martin Scorsese has had, and any doubt that he is one of the greatest directors ever, just shy away. Any doubt that you have about Martin Scorsese just kind of floats away when you realize how much work he has done that has been classic movie making. All of it's incredible. And he's still at the top of his game too. I thought Irishman was incredible. But beside the point, let's talk about this Jerry Garcia biopic. Apple TV Plus could be interesting. It's just interesting to see Scorsese, be such a stickler for filmmaking, and then make The Irishman, which was through Netflix, and then Apple TV Plus, which is, and then this Jerry Garcia movie, which is through Apple TV Plus. I'm sure that this movie is going to get some sort of theatrical release because he's Martin Scorsese. He needs to have his movies in the theater. I mean, I couldn't imagine not seeing this movie in the theater. So I just hope that is the case. I hope that he's getting everything out of this deal that he wants. I think that he will, because there was some speculation around The Irishman, whether or not that it would be good, whether or not, that movie bounced around for a while. It took a very long time for that movie to get made. And I still didn't even believe it when the movie started production and then it finished production. And then you saw the first trailer and I was like, holy shit, that movie's actually coming out with Scorsese and De Niro and Pacino, and Joe Pesci came out of retirement for that movie. Fucking killed it. Regardless. I'm excited for this movie a lot. I think Dolomite Is My Name was awesome. Great script, great movie. Eddie Murphy killed it in that movie, but the script is really, really good. And it's really easy to empathize with. Myself, as at the time that I watched it, I was trying to make it as an actor, and I just completely, totally empathized with Dolomite. It was great, and it rode the line of comedy and drama so well. The whole movie tonally is very, very good. So I hope that Scott Alexander and Larry Karaszewski can bring that same quality to Jerry Garcia. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. But other than that, I just really want Killers of the Flower Moon to come out. I don't think that Martin Scorsese, this is an industry that you always need to be looking forward to your next thing. So I do understand that, but let's talk about one thing at a time, Even though Martin Scorsese knows what he's going to do next, as an audience member, I only want to know what's coming now. I don't want to know what's coming next, Give me what's coming next when it's ready. We're already talking about the next Martin Scorsese. This was the same thing that we were doing with the Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson had already started filming his next movie when what's it called? The French Dispatch had just opened in theaters. I was like, what? Let's slow down a little bit and promote the movie that's already there. Like Ridley Scott was promoting 2 movies at once. This is a lot. But I guess that's just kind of the halting of COVID, is that people, professionals in the industry, had time to write and to think about what the next project was going to be after their, contracts got fulfilled or whatever they needed to do. So yeah, I guess that's that. Yeah, not really much to say about that. That was it. Just, Jonah Hill's, and I like Jonah Hill. They worked together in The Wolf of Wall Street. So cool. Not much else to say other than that. Very excited. Very, looking forward to it a lot. Okay. Number 2, Spider-Man No Way Home released a new trailer this week after teasing its release 24 hours in advance on the film's official Twitter page. The trailer gives more glimpses into the multiverse of Spider-Man villains, showing more of Doc Ock, Green Goblin, and others. Spider-Man No Way Home is directed by John Watts, who directed the previous 2 Tom Holland starring Spider-Man flicks, and will be written by Chris McKenna and Eric Summers, who are both known for writing the Lego Batman movie, the Jumanji remake, and the previous 2 Spider-Man films as well, being longtime writers on the NBC turned Yahoo exclusive sitcom Community, one of my favorite shows. Spider-Man No Way Home will be released in theaters December 17th, 2021. I wrote in the story here 2022, but I know that's not right. I know it comes out next month. So I really, really wanted to wait and report on this last week when I knew it was going to come out. But I had a flu shot, so I had an appointment that I needed to go. So it had to wait till this week. So now we're finally going to talk about it. Unfortunately, almost a whole week late. Actually, is a whole week later than the movie actually, or the trailer actually was released. So we're a little late here, but either way, and I've seen it before. I saw it last week, but I'm still going to watch it again, and I'm really excited to talk about it here. So I'll be right back. Yeah, as a Spider-Man fan, that trailer is very exciting. And I'm not going to be one of those people that is super conspiratorial about the whole thing, but Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are 100% in the movie. They got to be. Maybe not Andrew Garfield. There's been a lot of press beforehand that he's definitely not going to be. I think he's the ultimate mystery, but Tobey Maguire is definitely in the movie. You watch the trailer and you have villains from every Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. You have everyone except Venom, really, but you have, and even he might be in the movie later, just not in the trailer. But, okay, maybe I won't spoil the trailer in case someone's listening and they don't want the spoilers, but we're looking at a whole Spider-Man. We're looking at a live action Into the Spider-Verse is really what's going on here. And it's cool. And I'm super pumped and super excited for it. I love Tobey Maguire. I didn't even see the second Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. I saw Homecoming in theaters, and I didn't see whatever the other one was, Far From Home. I still haven't seen it. And I will see it eventually, probably before this one, but I don't really care that much about it, to be honest. I care about this one. I kind of like it. I kind of do want to watch it because I like Jake Gyllenhaal, and I think Mysterio is probably my favorite Spider-Man villain, but I just didn't care. I was just so burnt out on Marvel by the time, but This is so cool. And I think that in order for Marvel to survive, they have to have big banger movies like this that do things that are really unique and interesting. And I'm really excited to see what winds up happening with this movie. How much fan service is really in it, you know? I'm so excited. It's very nostalgic. I think the movie's going to be huge. I think it's going to break record. I think it's going to be huge. I'm really looking forward to it. But one thing I will say, and this is a problem that I've had with every Marvel movie I've seen, is that there's like zero original music. All the music just sounds like this lame orchestral trying to be epic music. Just like there are so many composers that would break their back to write one fight song for Marvel. They could do so much more with whatever. It's just a missed opportunity. Like the trailer's just like music that I feel like we've heard like 1,000 times before. Like the Danny Elfman score for Sam Raimi's Spider-Man is so iconic. Like every song you hear is like so iconic, and even those movies have their own original soundtracks too, other than the score. It's just so many missed opportunities. They just don't care about the music anymore, I guess. Whatever. Okay, number 3. Upcoming Guillermo del Toro crime drama Nightmare Alley received a trailer this week via Searchlight Pictures' official YouTube channel. This will be del Toro's first film since his Oscar-winning Best Director and Best Picture film Shape of Water in 2017. Nightmare Alley is written by del Toro and Kim Morgan, a relatively unknown writer, based on the 1946 novel by William Lindsay Gresham. And it stars Bradley Cooper, Kate Blanchett, Willem Dafoe, Rooney Mara, Toni Collette, and Ron Perlman. The film was about, quote, an ambitious carny with a talent for manipulating people with a few well-chosen words. Ooh, that is tough to read without a comma. Okay, let me start over. An ambitious carny with a talent for manipulating people with a few well-chosen words hooks up with a female psychiatrist who is even more dangerous than he is. End quote. Nightmare Alley is due in theaters December 17th, 2021. That's the same day as Spider-Man. But they're kind of going for different audiences, but still, like, Spider-Man's going to totally eclipse Nightmare Alley, which is such a shame. There's definitely a strong Guillermo del Toro fan base, especially after he won the, Best Picture and Best Director. But that's just way different. It's a shame. But either way, okay, let's pause. I'll watch a trailer. I don't think I've seen this one yet, but I'll pause and be right back. Yeah, so that was advertised as the last trailer before the movie is released. And I believe it and no reason not to, but that's pretty interesting because I still don't have any clue really what the movie's about, other than some sort of conflict between Bradley Cooper's character and Kate Blanchett's character. But that's kind of a good thing. You got to go into a movie like this with some trust in Guillermo del Toro because everything that he's done is so unique and so interesting and so creative that you just need to trust whatever's there. So, cool trailer, very short compared to Spider-Man and especially compared to the Jurassic World one, which we'll get to later. It was cool, interesting trailer. The art direction and the set design in Guillermo del Toro's movies are always super interesting and unique. So that is definitely at play here. Costume design looks great. All the production design stuff looks really good. The thing that I found weak about Shape of Water, which is pretty interesting that it won Best Picture. I actually don't agree with that choice, even though I love Guillermo del Toro, is that the writing was kind of weak. And I even think in Pan's Labyrinth, again, the writing is a little weak. It's visually a really creative movie that tells a really interesting story. And I think it kind of goes back to what we were just talking about with Tick, Tick, Boom and a few others, is that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. That if you can walk away with some sort of emotional connection, or maybe you can relate to the theme of the movie, that the theme is saying something, unique and interesting and important that maybe, this aspect of the movie didn't need to be that good, or this aspect of the movie didn't need to be that good. So that's always one thing that I worry about with Guillermo del Toro's movies, is that the writing is kind of weak, almost always, like consistently. So, I still have that same fear here, but I know that it'll be super visually interesting. So I'm interested to see how this movie does at the award cycle, because Shape of Water won Best Picture. It boggles my mind. Guillermo del Toro is he's so not the Academy Award guy. So it's just so strange that to think of him like that. But he is. I mean, he's top tier now. He's made history with that. So yeah, I guess we'll just see how it goes. I'm interested, but I'm not sold on this movie. It's very niche. And I'm not so sure that it's for me yet. So, all right, let's move on. Number 4, Amazon revealed a trailer for their upcoming sci-fi thriller Encounter, starring Riz Ahmed. Encounter is directed by Michael Pierce, BAFTA winner for 2017's Beast, and is written by Pierce and Joe Barton, known for a few TV shows. Encounter is about, quote, 2 brothers embark on a journey with their father who is trying to protect them from an alien threat, end quote, and is set to release in theaters on December 3rd and on Amazon Prime on December 10th. I don't think I watched this trailer yet, so yeah, either way I gotta pause it, but yeah, don't think I've seen it yet, so interested. That seems like a really interesting movie. Unique concept, and the fact that it has Riz Ahmed and Octavia Spencer, Oscar nominated and Oscar winning respectively. The movie could have a really intense emotional core to it, which makes it seem like kind of Oscar baity, but it's also a sci-fi alien invasion movie, which makes it seem like it's really not Oscar baity, because sci-fi movies typically do not do well at the Academy Awards ever. They've never done well. So I don't really know where this movie falls and what it's trying to achieve, but I think that it could be something very special and very unique. And Riz Ahmed, his performance in Sound of Metal was incredible, and Octavia Spencer kills it with everything she does. I think the movie could be great. The child actors could go either way. I've seen child actors kill it. I've seen child actors be pretty bad in movies. So, I don't know. That could go either way, and that could kind of make or break the movie. But yeah, we'll see. I probably will watch that just because it's on Prime, and I have Prime, and I've been looking for an excuse to use it. So yeah, watch it. It's included with Prime, why not? You should watch it too. All right, let's move on. Number 5. Wait, am I recording? Yeah, I am. Okay, good. Number 5, Focus Features released a trailer this week for The Outfit, a crime thriller starring Oscar-winning Mark Rylance of Dunkirk fame and directed by Oscar-winning Imitation Game screenwriter Graham Moore. The film is about, quote, a gripping and masterful thriller in which an expert tailor must outwit a dangerous group of mobsters in order to survive a fateful night, end quote. The film is set to be released on February 25th, 2022. It's coming out this February. Not a good time to release a movie after Oscar season, but it might have just been delayed due to some sort of COVID restrictions or something of the like. But yeah, I'll just do the same thing as always, pause and watch trailer, be right back. Yeah, really cool trailer. I love that right around this time of year, right around Oscar season, there's a lot of movies that are unique and not based on prior works and not sequels and not Marvel movies, and I really am enjoying it. All these new, unique movies that look great. So yeah, this is like a movie that takes place over the course of one night, it seems like. Looks interesting. It seems like it could go either way of whether or not it's good or bad. It's tough to tell from the trailer, but the concept seems really cool and really unique. February is not a good time to release a movie, so that's why I'm kind of iffy on it. But it's directed by the Oscar-winning screenwriter of Imitation Game, Graham Moore. But I don't think it's written by him. Let me look it up real quick. The outfit. It's called... nope. Angels in the Outfield. Not what I was looking for. Yeah, Zoe Dutch is in it. I think that was in the write-up. Yeah, Graham Moore is a writer, but Jonathan McLean is also writing. I'm not sure what he has also written. Yeah, a few episodes of a TV show, so not much. But yeah, so could go either way. I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about it. Good trailer. That's all I can really say right now. Good trailer. Like the cast. Zoe Dutch is great. And it seems interesting, but it seems like also a lot of these movies that, take place in one location, take place, over the course of one night, wind up being kind of a slow burn, could, like I've been saying, could go either way of whether or not it's good or bad. So I don't know. Trailer looks good, looks intriguing. I'm hesitant. That's all I can say. Let's go on to number 6. Universal revealed via Twitter the title, along with a few other major details of the next installment of the Jurassic Park franchise this week. Jurassic World Dominion will star Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard once again. This prequel to 2015's Jurassic World will also star This prequel to 2015's Jurassic World will also star Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum reprising their roles from the original trilogy. Dominion will be directed by Jurassic World director Colin Trevorrow. Universal also revealed a full 5-minute trailer for the film and its release date, June 10th, 2022. This will be the 3rd installment of the Jurassic World series and the 6th overall feature-length film in the Jurassic Park series, with installments occurring in 1993, 1997, 2001, 2015, 2018, and 2018. Steven Spielberg is set to return as an executive producer, giving this film his blessing. So I haven't seen this trailer at all, definitely. I came out earlier today while I was writing the news, and I know it's incredibly long, 5-minute trailer. So, yeah, I'm intrigued. So I'll be right back. That was pretty interesting. So in the beginning, over the first few minutes, I was wondering, what are we watching here? It was just like kind of, a bunch of, pre-rendered CG footage of some, prehistoric creatures running around doing their thing, eating food and, watching their eggs and whatever. And then, 2 carnivores fought each other, and then we flash forward 65 million years. During the first minute or so, I was like, is this even going to be part of the movie? I wonder if this is just to give some of the movie context. But then, we flash forward and we see Chris Pratt and we see a dinosaur running around, and there's a little action set piece, and I imagine that this 5 minutes is going to be the first 5 minutes, or maybe, the first 7 minutes or so. Maybe they'll expand it a little bit for the final cut. This will just be the first 5 minutes of the movie. And I thought that that's, pretty cool for the movie to do. Just, don't give us some flashy business. Like, just show us the first few minutes of the movie. If it's good, it can speak for itself. I thought that was really cool. And I hope that more movies do that. I haven't seen that really happen. So that was pretty cool. I am pretty intrigued about this movie. I didn't like Jurassic World 1, and I never saw Jurassic World, the second one, whatever it was called. And because this is a prequel to that, I am like all set to join. I'm like good to join in. I love Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum joining the cast. Laura Dern recently won an Oscar for Marriage Story, I believe. So, she's not an easy get. So even though they definitely have the budget for her, I'm like pretty all in on this movie. Comes out next June, so that's pretty cool. Go watch it. But I would say skip the 30 seconds if you just want to see something cool. Yeah, pretty cool. really interesting and really unique that they just showed the movie, not some odd cut, just show the movie. Pretty cool. That's it for that story, and that's all for the big news stories this week. So let's get into the wrap up. This is usually some smaller news stories that I don't have any sort of desire to talk about, or there's not enough information out there to really say much about it. So let's get into those small stories. And I usually just read these off like headlines. So, and if you're interested with them, I implore you to research them or find a way to write in so I can talk about them with you. Yeah, that'd be cool. I should do something like that. Anyway, here's the wrap up. So Ridley Scott told the BBC radio talk show today that Blade Runner TV show pilot is written and the Alien TV show pilot is currently being written. Variety reports that TikTok star Griffin Johnson is set to produce and star in a new movie titled Diamond in the Rough, using a platform for independent digital creations called Creator Plus. The film will also star Samantha Boscarino. Disney confirmed a new rumor that Delroy Lindo will star in the upcoming Blade reboot. Focus Features' You Won't Be Alone gets a release date of January 28th, 2022. Deadline obtained a first look at 6 Days to Die, the second sci-fi thriller from Matt Campagna. Deadline reports that Redbox bought the distribution rights to the thriller called Assailant. Deadline reports that Mario Bava's thriller Rabid Dogs is getting an English-language remake with original producer Alfredo Leone, executive producing the remake. Harry Styles' character from Eternals gets its own poster, and I think that's a spoiler, but I don't care. Mandalorian star Gina Carano announced via a YouTube video from the Ann and Phelim Scoop that she would be joining the cast of the Hunter Biden biopic, My Son Hunter. A24 announced that they had received the rights to distribute Markle the Shell with Shoes On, a stop-motion film from Dean Fleischer Camp. Time Studios, formed in 2020, announced the expansion of its documentary division for kids and family. The Musician, a short animated film from MTV Studios, gets a short trailer and release date for Paramount Plus, November 22nd. Deadline reports that Amber Feely is set to direct Nod If You Understand, a thriller about the 1971 D.B. Cooper airline hijacking. I was researching that because of that story. Pretty cool. Interesting. Deadline reports that TriStar bought the rights to survival thriller Spec Script from Colin Bannon, Ultra. The Matrix's official Twitter account revealed a new trailer for the upcoming fourth installment. Sorry, a new poster, not trailer. If it was a trailer, I would talk about it, but no, just a poster. Deadline reports that Carrie Coon, Alessandro Nivola, and Chris Cooper join Keira Knightley in Boston Strangler. Lionsgate and BuzzFeed will team up for supernatural thriller Dear David about a horror story that went viral on Twitter. Deadline reports that George Gervin documentary is in the works from The Last Dance's Mike Tollin. Deadline reports that the Allen brothers are set to be the subject of a documentary from Nick Cassavetes. Deadline reports that Cardi B will star in upcoming heist film Assisted Living. Hollywood Reporter reports that Amanda Milius acquired the rights to Mark Ellington's upcoming book about John McAfee. Paramount announced that there will be a sequel to Clifford the Big Red Dog. DC's League of Super Pets got its first trailer this week. I just didn't want to talk about it. Bluestone Entertainment announced this week that Casey Affleck, Lawrence Fishburne, Emily Beecham, Tomar Capone, and David Morrissey have been cast in psychological space thriller Slingshot, directed by Michael Hafstrom, written by R. Scott Adams and Nathan Parker. Deadline reports that Zoe Dutch will star in Something from Tiffany's, an Amazon original based off a book written by Tamara Chesna and directed by Derry Wayne. So that's all the news this week. This is the part of the show where we talk about what is new in theaters this weekend. Some big movies coming out this week as we get closer and closer to the end of the year, notoriously award season. So what's coming out this week? Well, we have House of Gucci, When Patricia Reggiani, an outsider from humble beginnings, marries into the Gucci family, her unbridled ambition begins to unravel their legacy and triggers a reckless spiral of betrayal, decadence, revenge, and ultimately murder. Directed by Ridley Scott, starring Lady Gaga, Adam Driver, Al Pacino, and Jeremy Irons. And, what's his face? Jared Leto as well. Licorice Pizza, the story of Elena Kane and Gary Valentine growing up, running around and going through the treacherous navigation of first love in the San Fernando Valley, 1973. Directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, starring Bradley Cooper, Maya Rudolph, Skylar Gisondo, and Sean Penn. There are 2 unknown actors in that as well. One of them is Philip Seymour Hoffman's son in his movie debut, his feature film debut, his acting debut, I believe, as well. Encanto. A young Colombian girl has to face the frustration of being the only member of her family without magical powers. Directed by Jared Bush, Byron Howard, and Charisse Castro-Smith. Starring Stephanie Beatrice, Maria Cecilia Botero, John Leguizamo, and Mauro Castillo. Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City. Set in 1998, this origin story explores the secrets of the mysterious Spencer Mansion and the ill-fated Raccoon City, directed by Johan Roberts, starring Kea Scolodario, Robbie Arnold, Hannah John Kamen, and Neil McDonough. The Humans. Set inside a pre-war duplex in downtown Manhattan, The Humans follows the course of an evening in which the Blake family gathers to celebrate Thanksgiving. As darkness falls outside the crumbling building, mysterious things start to go bump in the night and family tensions reach a boiling point. Directed by Stephen Karam. Not starring anyone that I recognize. Oh, Stephen Yuen is in that. Richard Jenkins as well. National Champions. Follows star quarterback who ignites a players' strike hours before the biggest game of the year in order to fight for fair compensation, equality, and respect for the student athletes. Directed by Rick Roman Woe. Starring Alexander Ludwig, Timothy Olyphant, J.K. Simmons, Kristen Chenoweth. Don't know why that movie isn't higher up on the list. It's got pretty all-star cast and looks pretty good from the trailer. I watched, covered it last week. Drive My Car. Nishijima Hidetoshi is a stage actor and director, happily married to his playwright wife. Then one day she disappears. I'm not going to even try to butcher any of these Japanese names, but that is I imagine an English dub or an English sub finally coming to domestic markets, English-speaking markets. And that's everything that's coming to theaters this week, but I also wanted to give a shout-out to this Apple TV Plus original coming this week. Not necessarily a movie, but a series of movies. The Beatles Get Back is a documentary about the music group The Beatles, featuring in-studio footage that was shot in early 1969 for the 1970 feature film Let It Be. Directed by Peter Jackson, starring John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. It feels good to say those 4 names together. So that's everything I have for the show. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you made it this far, God bless you. I can barely even stand listening to myself talk for this long. So yeah, that's it. This is What Gets Captured on Film. That was What Gets Captured on Film. Show posts on all your favorite podcast feeds Wednesday at 9 a.m. and then on YouTube Wednesday at noon. My name is Dylan Paulson. I am your host. I was your host. Thanks and have a great night. Be safe. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thanksgiving here in the States this week. So go watch some movies or something. All right. Have a good one. Goodbye.